It's difficult to pinpoint just a memory or multiple memories, but one that comes to mind is at a band booster meeting one night. I had a gentleman father of one of my band students was asked to speak about being in the pit crew to try to, we needed some volunteers to be in pit crew. And not only did he stand up and talk about the pit crew, he also spoke very highly about the band in general and talked about how it prepared his son for life. His son is enlisting in the Marines and wants to be in the infantry. And he just talked about the discipline and the accountability that band taught him. And then his words were just so sincere and so heartwarming. It nearly brought me to tears. The gentleman then, he came to the front of the room and he thanked me for providing them an activity that him and his son could do together. And they were really involved. Both parents were really involved in the competitions and everything. And it gave them something that they could do together. And when I think about, on Saturday nights, sometimes 2 a.m. when we're getting back from competitions, it just makes it worth it, when you think about those interactions.
There is a memory that defines why I teach. I had a student last year. I've heard about him since he was in 3rd grade. He was always kind of targeted as the problem student, that a lot of teachers didn't quite know what to do with him, but I saw he was on my roster and I was determined to do whatever I could to make sure I had an impact in his life. I'm not going to say every day was easy, but he pushed me to make sure that I thought outside of the box. It started with just during breakfast, little conversations, and during dismissal, just to get to know the child and not the labeled problem student. I learned that he loved Google Earth, he loved football, and would tell me more things that I ever knew about him. He also loved all the stadiums. He knew every city and state and official name of every NFL stadium and could find them on Google Earth. I then was able to take those. We used Google Earth in our social studies lessons, and he would then also go to the library and check out library books on football and come back with all these facts I never knew. His memorization completely shocked me. He taught me persistence, perseverance, definitely patience, but to keep evolving as a teacher. His behaviors would come out of nowhere, and he could not keep long-term incentives, so normal behavior plans did not work for him. So using the technology, using that rapport that I got to have with him, getting to know him, getting to build that relationship really, really helped me. So now I use that with all of my students. Every day is a new day, and I get to learn more about the kids that I ever thought I would have.
Over the years, I've had the privilege of working with a lot of wonderful students, parents, colleagues, and mentors. But I will have to say that this year there is a special memory that stuck out in my mind as being the reason why I do what I do. And it is from this school year. A student of mine in 1st grade is in one of my LLI groups, one of my reading intervention groups. And she is a very reluctant reader. She didn't believe in herself. And as much as I try to encourage my students to try their best and that they will be able to persevere, it was very challenging when this student and I first met. One of the first things she said to me is, "I'm not a reader, I can't read. Reading is just too hard for me." And so I knew I needed to pay close attention to her as we were in reading group. One day it was time for us to move up a level in reading, and we were starting a new book. And I could see in her eyes that she was very nervous about if she was going to be able to read this book. And so I gave a pep talk, told the students to remember all the strategies that we've learned throughout the school year. And so as the students began to read independently, I leaned down to listen to all the students read, but I kept a close eye on this particular student. And I was watching her read the words on the page, turn each page, and as she's reading successfully, her eyes are as big as saucers, her smile is as wide as can be, and I gave her a little nod and a silent, little thumbs up to her, and she was just beaming with pride and couldn't stand it and just shouted, "I'm a reader, Mrs. Taka, I'm a reader."
One day they may say, "Oh my gosh, get out of my face." But the next day, I think they would say, "That's pretty interesting. Show me more about this." Or, "Wait, I understand why I can't do this." and they're appreciative of what's going on. You know, sometimes I don't feel like I reach them, but then that one moment when a child says thank you, you walk away from it and you're like, wow, I reached somebody today. And it may only take one student, but it's worth it. And then if I can come back and try to get to another student, for them to be able to say anything that they want towards me regarding how positive the atmosphere was and that they've learned something, whether it was a fact or a cool thing that we did in class, that's awesome. And it's also from them because they feel appreciative when I can say thank you for saying that nice thing.
They would say that I obviously and definitely love teaching them every day. They would say that I have high energy for my content and give that energy to them and motivate them to be interested in English, and that I truly care about them inside the classroom but outside of the classroom as well.
I would hope my students would say that I bring a lot of fun to the classroom. I'm always trying to bring that positive energy. I have a sense of humor. I try not to take myself too seriously, and hopefully that we have a lot of fun, but they know that I care. You know, I want them to succeed, and that's it.
My students would say that I am funny, I am quick-witted, I care about them, and they would call me the king of the nicknames because I give everyone a nickname before they leave my room. I always nickname them something very positive to make them laugh, to make their day go a little smoother. Nothing ever negative, but they come back to me years later and say, hey, I remember that nickname you gave me.
I know what my students would say about me because they've told me. Last December, I did an activity with my students where I had them all sit in a circle, and one student was the focus of the circle, and each student would go around in that circle and say something kind about the focus student, and then each student would get their turn of being the focus. And through this activity, I could see my students, the ones that were being focused on, their self-esteem building when it was their turn. So it was a wonderful activity. Well, anyway, after the activity was finished, they all insisted that I get a turn. They wanted to talk about Miss McCauley. And some of the things I heard were, Miss McCauley's very kind. She's always smiling. She's very energetic. She is someone we can count on. She's someone we can trust. She's my second mom. I heard all of these things. And what I kept hearing over and over was Mrs. McCauley was someone we could count on. And this day probably was the very best day of my teaching career, because hearing all of those things let me know that I had made it as a teacher. Because when the very first day I began teaching, that was my goal. I wanted to be someone that my students could count on. And this activity, when my kids were telling me I was all of these things, I just felt like I had made it.
Well, I feel lucky to be a specialist teacher because I get to see the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and I see basically half the school year. And so I get to know a lot of the students, and I think what they would say about me is that I'm very kind, that I'm very fun, I try to have engaging lessons, health is very topical, so I try to relate it back to them and what they are eating, what kind of drugs are in society, what depression, and all those things, and I think they would think that I'm very relatable. But you know, my number one goal is to always build relationships with them, and I think my content area really allows me to do that.
The thing that influenced me to become a teacher was when I was growing up, I was very fortunate. I had 2 parents that were supportive, that supported me in school and every other endeavor that I wanted to do. However, growing up, I had many friends that were not as fortunate as I was. And after watching many of my wonderful educators mentor them, teach them, and help them grow, I decided that I wanted to be similar to them. I wanted to make a difference in all children's lives. So I decided that I was going to go to school to be a teacher, and the things that were most important to me were wanting to make every child know that they could be anything they wanted to be. I wanted to encourage them to work hard, to just give them the encouragement that they might not necessarily be getting at home or from their support system with their families. I decided that I wanted to be that loving environment that they needed. I decided that I wanted to be the voice for the children. I wanted to encourage them to be the best that they could be. I wanted to be the environment, build the environment for them. I wanted it to be safe. I wanted them to know that they were loved and that they were believed in, because all children need that to be successful.
I would say my mom influenced me to become a teacher. She was a classroom teacher herself, and I remember with my twin sister playing with my mom's school supplies when we were younger, and I just admired my mom, and I knew from a young age I wanted to become a teacher.
I would have to say that there were a combination of people that influenced me to become a teacher, and it started very early on. In the second grade, it was my teacher, Mrs. Cheney, and she was a phenomenal teacher that made learning fun, and she made it engaging. She also made every student in her class feel like they were the most important person around. And from that moment on, I knew that I wanted to become a teacher. But later on in high school, I had another teacher. She was actually an intern my 11th grade year of English, and then in 12th grade had a position at my school. She helped me edit and write some papers for college that year, and she went above and beyond to show me that I was important and that I could work hard and achieve my goals. Of course, in addition to other teachers, my parents. And my parents did not attend college. It was not until later that my mother decided to go back. But they pushed me. They set high expectations for me, and when I said I wanted to become a teacher, they definitely encouraged me to work towards that goal. The day that I received my diploma from college, my mother was actually graduating the very same day. She attended my ceremony and didn't attend hers, but it was a memory that I'll never forget, and because of my parents and their love and their dedication to my siblings and I was able to go ahead and accomplish that goal.
My mother influenced me to become a teacher because I remember as a little girl watching her in her classroom and thinking to myself, if one day I could influence my students and build a successful relationship like she had with hers, then I had made it.
I knew as a child that the educational field was one with a meaningful purpose. The teachers I had in elementary, middle, and high school all truly enjoyed what they did every single day. My teachers, Judy Parker from Chipman Elementary, Debbie Wilkins, Mary Kinnaman from North Salisbury, and the late Ann Powell Parsons from Glen Avenue Elementary, were all influential on my decision of becoming an educator. They were prepared daily. They set high expectations for their students. They were fair, and they just truly loved all of us. And that's why I became a teacher today. I wanted to be like them and pay it forward.
My best day as a teacher comes actually several times a year. My favorite day, my best day, is concert day because I get to see my kids shine in performance. We work at getting the concert together, practicing, rehearsing, getting all the stuff that we need, learning the notes, learning the rhythms, and when concert day comes, it's a fun day, it's a relaxed day. All the work is done and you stand there and you perform, and it's a lot of fun. Very rewarding to hear how much the kids can play and how well they do, and that is my best day as a teacher.
Well, I like to think my best day hasn't happened yet. So my best day as a teacher is tomorrow, because every day I end the day thinking, what would I have changed? How could I have made that lesson better? What am I going to teach tomorrow that will get a kid to connect to this story or this text or this skill that they didn't understand today? Or if a kid had a rough day, how am I going to reach out to them tomorrow and rebuild that relationship? What can I do tomorrow to make today even better? So I don't like to look back and think about one particular day. I like to think about how I'm going to continue to teach my students to grow and help them get there.
Each school year we have a culminating activity at the end of each year in June, and what I do is I take all the photographs that I have taken throughout the year and I compile them to make a video. We put it together with music. There's a song that each kid that I've ever taught sings the same song with lyrics that only the kids that were in my class knows, and we sing it and we actually have a special dance. But the magical part is that when I invite all of my families to see it and my students, they're all seeing it for the first time. It's really really neat experience because all of those memories from the first day to the last week are all captured within it. And at the end, we we do a writing activity about what we will miss most, and it also allows the families to do a letter as well. And we really enjoy it. We laugh, we cry tears of joy, but it's a great reflection piece and a great way to end the year and then have it as a treasured memory for years to come.
Finish this sentence. I hope that my students.
I hope that my students know how much I care. I don't leave work at work. I've never learned how to get to school with, just my purse and my lunchbox and not take anything home. I am a mom, and my kids know that my job is important to me, and I do work at home. I get to school early. So I hope they know that I'm putting in long hours for them, and it's well worth it because I see the rewards that I get out of it. And I hope that they know that I think that they are smart, that they are able to do great things in life, and that what I am teaching them will hopefully continue to grow, and they would add on to the knowledge that I've given them as they go throughout their schooling and then also later on in life.
I hope that my students know that they are welcome to a classroom where they feel safe and they feel nurtured, that they have teachers that care about them and want truly the best for their students. I hope that my students know that with hard work and dedication and commitment to the task at hand, that there is no challenge that is too great for them. I hope they know that they have teachers that truly care for them and that we are here for all of our children.
I hope that my students know that I love them, that I believe in them, and I know that they will do great things. One of the reasons why I push so hard is because I want them to know that anything is possible. I want them to develop a love for learning, something that carries them on throughout their life, because at pre-K, you have a really long way to go. I want them to know that learning is fun and that everything is a learning experience. We will continue throughout life, constantly learning new things. So I want them to know that it's important, and I want them to know that I will always, always, always be one of their biggest supporters.
My hope is that my students leave my classroom with a love of learning and a desire to excel in and out of the classroom. And I hope that I have given them the tools to become a well-rounded individual. And when they look in the mirror, they're proud of who they have become. And that they look back on their first grade memories and love it.
I hope that my students know how much I care about each one of them. I try to treat each one as if they were my own child. They bring so much joy to my life. They honestly are the reason that I get out of bed every morning to see their smiling faces.
I hope that my students know that success is not an option, it's a requirement, and that as their teacher, I'm here to do whatever is in my power to help them reach success. Particularly as a 5th grade teacher, I am in charge of getting them prepared for the next phase of their life, which is middle school.
I hope that my students become critical thinkers through all my lessons that I have taught them. I hope that one day, through all these negative headlines, that they are able to make informed decisions on their own, and instead of jumping to conclusions. I hope that my students become upstanding citizens. I really pride my students on caring about others, and I want to make sure that I have a classroom environment where it's positive and that students are looking from different perspectives, and that they are using their manners, and that they are caring to each other. I also hope that my students, if they come across a dark day in their lives, that it doesn't define them, that it instead helps them grow. When we run into these situations, when they're having a bad day, that it's not something that can control their lives, that it's just a part of them and it will make them a better person.
I hope that my students leave my classroom every day with a little bit more confidence and a little bit more encouragement. Just like I said in the 1 minute fishbowl, you know, the kids will probably forget half of the things you said to them, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And if I have them leave my classroom feeling like rock stars, I've done my job.